welcome to Truckers Talk on Channel 19, where we talk with companies and experts who offer solutions to the industry's biggest problems. Today we have with us Executive Director of CDL MEALS, Mr. Bob Perry. How are you doing, Mr. Bob Perry?
I'm doing good, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Very excited to have you here. So my partner and I actually discovered CDL MEALS about a year ago during our sourcing for our boxes. And we love what you guys stand for. You know, you're a company that's out on a mission to serve drivers, delivering healthy and convenient meals. And we're all about that over at Breaker 19. We want to try to help support drivers in any way possible. So love what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
To jump right into it, you mind sharing with us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got involved with the food industry or CDL MEALS in particular?
Absolutely. So my background, I come from a family of professional drivers. Our father, drove for 45 years or better. And as I say, when he retired with the professional truck driver healthcare package. Had high blood pressure, sleep apnea, diabetic, all those things, right? And I drove when I was younger, but realized that's not what I wanted to do. So I spent my life in the health and wellness and healthcare industry. But I have two brothers that still drive today. But I, was always, growing up in it, being around it, I understand the struggles and understand what these men and women go through out there trying to make it happen. So I dedicated my life and time to try and come up with just that solutions, ways that we can help service these men and women better and keep them healthy, and at the end of the day, get them home safe to see their family.
Absolutely.
CDL MEALS really is pretty interesting. I've always had various different companies that I worked with fleets. My previous company, we do coaching and so forth and work with drivers. And I was contacted by Nutrisystem, and they wanted to see if there was an opportunity, to make their packaged food available for drivers. And so we did a pilot program for like 90 days and really just had, great response. I mean, just like we thought, a lot of lost weight, and good results, lowered blood pressure, all those wonderful things, right? So we were going to work on a campaign to roll it out to drivers. And about 2 weeks before we were going to launch this, I get a call from the executive vice president at Nutrisystem saying that they had to back out. And I said, why? He said, well, we just got this big deal with Walmart, and we got to, be able to supply all the meals there, and we think that's a better opportunity. And I said, who do you think is going to deliver those meals?
That was my first thought.
Right? I mean, I'm listening to him tell me this, why they can't do it. And I'm thinking, okay, it's truck drivers go home. I mean, this is ideal for you, right? I mean, this is like, you couldn't make this up.
Right.
But they couldn't connect the dots, right? So I said, so I had to go back and tell my clients that, this wasn't going to happen. I'm driving down the road one day, coming back from a driver an event. I get this phone call, and it's Lorene. Yeah. And she said, hey, I told me who she was. She goes, and Covenant Transport was a company I've worked with for years in driver health. And one of their drivers, they were hauling her meals for her from California to FedEx, right, in Memphis. And she said, boy, I'd really like to get these meals in the hands of drivers. And so the driver said, well, you should try and find this guy, Bob Perry. He could probably make it happen. So she called me up. And so her and I met for like a year or so back and forth, and came up with the idea about CDL MEALS. And, my relationship with Lorene is to make the connection with the driver. She's the manufacturer of the food, does a great job. They ship about, I don't know, 500,000 meals to consumers every day, through the month. But this is tailored to drivers, right? Because you and I both know that I can get them, the drivers to run around the truck 100 times, but if they don't take control of what they put in their mouth, it's not going to happen. Yep. So anyway, we come up with CDL MEALS, and that's what we've been trying to work on, get it out there in the public domain. And we ship to drivers, but that's not very difficult. You probably understand that as well, what you do. And because they're moving targets, right? They're out there. And so we're always looking for new ways, and we're doing some pilot programs with some large travel centers, and hoping that we can break it. Because when I do a lot of different radio programs, the calls I get in from drivers, majority of them are saying, hey Bob, when are you going to get these trucking truck stops to start selling healthier food. And I said, well, the first step is if you keep buying that crap they're selling you, they're going to keep selling it to you, right? So you got to tell them differently. So, but anyway, so that's kind of how it came to be. And we're pretty excited. We think we've got some good things in the works, and hopefully partnering with people like yourself, we can make more awareness.
Yep, that's the name of the game. Make as much noise. And what you said a little bit in the beginning about, the importance of, letting guys know that this exists. My father, I've been in the industry my entire life. My father, 35 years of trucking, has his company now. And I really wish something like this existed, 15, 20 years ago when
All
he's,
right.
and a lot of it, it's not so much the driver's um, fault, especially in the early days. They didn't have the opportunity or the options when they did stop at truck stops.
Right.
But I think we're moving in the right directions, especially with companies like yourself and the advocating that you do personally for the health of drivers. I think on the right track to improving the industry and making an impact. So
Yeah, with people like with things like what you're doing, we're trying to do. It's about giving drivers options, right, and opportunity
yep,
to make a choice.
that's
And
the
I,
game.
yeah, right. And I tell them all the time that listen, just give me 50%. If you can just make a good choice 50% of the time,
Yep,
because we lose. One of the other big things that I advocate for is that we lose thousands and thousands of drivers, skilled drivers, every month because they can't pass their DOT exam. Blood pressure's too high, sugar's too high, and we have to do a better job of helping those men and women and take care of themselves, make better choices.
yep. And even before this call, I did a little research. Well, in our society in general, obesity is a problem, as a lot of us know already. But with trucking and the profession of drivers, they're 2 times as likely to be obese than any other workforce in the United States. And it's the nature of the job. So being that much more health conscious of the decisions and choices you make while you are out on the road, it makes the world a difference.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting you made that point because I tell people all the time that I don't drive anymore. So when I go now, I fly, and I said, when I'm on those airplanes, I can tell you 50% of the people on that airplane could use some kind of a program, right? It's
right,
just people pick on truck drivers it's like because they don't have accessibility
right,
and blood pressure, sugar, sleep deprivation, those things. Unfortunately, it's part of the job comes with it, because of the irregular schedules and sleep patterns and on the go. And because we all know, and if they're not turning their wheels, they're not making money. It's not like they're
right.
paid big money to go out there. So they got to make it happen.
And it's easy to fall into a bad pattern of habits, and it's kind of a snowball effect. You get out on the road, you get comfortable, you kind of, yeah, and it just keeps stair stepping in the wrong direction. So um,
Yeah, and it's that whole thing of feeling that hey, listen, you're gone away from home for a week at a time, and you worked all day, and your family's gone. You feel like you're being deprived, which you are, and so you're deserving of, In fact, I was just writing a story today talking about how I just hate it when I drive down the interstate and I see those billboards. They're stopping at the truck stop. They got that big chocolate pie and all that. I mean, what's that all about? You know, because the poor drivers come in there and it's weak. They get weak and they feel I worked all day. I'm away from my family. I deserve it, right? And it just isn't the best choice.
yep, yep, it doesn't pay off in the long run. That's the big thing to keep in mind. I always talk to my dad about, yeah, everybody wants to eat a burger and all the time, but the feeling you get when you do make healthier choices, and a lot of it comes from just education and helping
Yep,
spread the word about programs like this.
you're right. It's education and giving them the same opportunity. They just don't get it, and we don't teach it in the driving school. It drives me crazy. I first started down this. You could probably appreciate this. I first started down this path many years ago. I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to truck driving school. This makes perfect sense, right? They're coming through there, and I'll never forget the first guy looked at me. It was in Ohio where I went. It was in Lake Milton, Ohio, to a truck driving school, and this guy looked at me like I had three heads. Why in the world would I want to do that? Why would I want to teach them that, right? In reality, they want the turnover, right? Because that's how they make money. They want to bring more drivers in.
Yep, it's a numbers game at that point with that. Yep, exactly.
So I thought, well, this is crazy. I'm not going to try and convince this guy. So
And unfortunately, that's a lot. I mean, that's everywhere.
it's
Unfortunately, That's the
Yeah,
bad.
it's still that way today. In fact, I put a manual together after years of working with drivers. It's a CDL manual for a school manual for them to have, and um, I couldn't get anybody to embrace it. And, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
But still working on it. Still working on it. Women in Trucking has got a good program going that we're going to be working together on to get into the driving schools and help get education.
Good. And I think even things like this, like we're doing right now, I
Right.
think the more we can get it out there and the more people start hearing it, the better and the more effective it'll be as we go through. So,
Right on.
well, as far as like I mentioned earlier, my partner and I visited the website on CDO Mills. Very clean. We loved what it stood for. Your message is simple. Your mission is simple. For those drivers that don't know, could you tell us a little bit more about how the process works and how they can order meals and how all that works?
Sure. So they can go, online directly and order the meals, and we can set up where we can send it to their home, weekly or a couple times, however they wish to have it done, right? And recognize that their schedules are such it could be kind of difficult, right, when they get home. So you just need to pick the selection how often they want those meals delivered to their home. They can. We're also reaching out and trying to get more of the fleets to empower making the meals available to their drivers at their terminals, right, when they come through. A lot of the terminals now have cafeterias, and they sometimes contract with other folks. But regardless, they can still order direct from us CDL, and we can ship those meals and can have them in the cooler and make them available for the drivers to come through. And they're pretty cool. They come with a little training manual that talks about fitness and making better tips out on the road. So it really is designed and delivered, driver designed, driver delivered, for the driver in mind, because we understand their challenges. It's not easy to make those kind of choices out there, but if they can do this 2 or 3 times out of the week, and if they still want to indulge in some others, they can. But at least they're cutting their caloric intake in half.
Absolutely. Yep. That's awesome. So it sounds like you guys are kind of working on getting a presence inside of terminals with the.
Right.
I think that's amazing. I think that's a great step in that direction. That is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, because we need that. That's where the drivers allow them to come through to get their equipment worked on, and so forth. So that they're a lot of idle time. Um, Typically, there's going to be poor choices. We try to make it available, help drivers understand how to prepare and pack their cooler. And one of the things I train drivers on all the time is their pre-trip check. I mean, we know that when you go to school, that's the first thing that they ingrain in you, right? Every time you stop before you pull it out, you got to look around, walk around, see if anything's hanging down, doesn't look right. And so I try to instill in them to do a pre-trip cooler or refrigerator check, right? Because you're a professional driver, you're going to get stuck, right? Going to be construction, going to be traffic, going to be weather. And when you don't have a good choice to reach for, you make a bad one.
Yep. Yeah, it's inevitable. You're definitely going to be spending time in that truck, so might as
Yeah,
well surround yourself with healthy options and choices. That's absolutely right.
exactly.
So my partner and I actually did a review of CDO Mills, and we'll be releasing that later this week. Delicious meals. But one of the coolest things I noticed was the ingredients are simple. I mean, there's nothing I can't pronounce on there, which is a lot of the times the case. Very few ingredients. You write down the lines, like very clean. So if how does your team kind of create, or Lorraine, the founder, what inspired? Was that a big importance to her when she created these?
Yeah, and she's got a wonderful background, great story. She's very young, but she started cooking herself for family and friends that had some medical issues, and it caught on, and she started really doing this out of a little 1-bedroom apartment, really, and it caught hold, and then one thing led to another, and more people got it. So then I remember when I first met Lorraine over in Chino Hills, I think, and didn't have near. I mean, she's got it. I mean, her place today is just like, it's like in her world, it's like a dream come true, right? I mean, this fabulous kitchen, and I mean, it's just a really going concern because of the volume they're doing. But it just caught hold, all natural again. And a lot of it is because she's really, you know, involved daily. She keeps her hands in it, and she understands what started it, and she makes it keep it going. And the quality, it's, you got to deliver it every day, right? Especially when it comes to food, like a restaurant you go to and you get a bad meal, you don't go back. So, but she believes in it, and we've done a lot of trucking shows. I've done a lot of sampling around the country. Drivers really love it. It's just that we're now trying to do a better job of trying to get in front of them on the road where they're at, right? Which is how we got to deliver it.
Yep, absolutely. And I love hearing that she's actively involved in the process still, and that means a lot to me as a driver and as a company owner. I think the founder or whoever's running the show staying involved, getting their face out there, working with people like yourself to really take hold of the mission to spread the journey and the health of drivers. I think that's amazing. So very,
Yeah.
very cool.
And what sold me on Lorraine, because she was very relentless at making this happen. I mean, and a lot of times, as people that want to get in the space, they have, they just think because the drivers are so poor health, the companies are going to want to do all this, and it's it's not always the case, right? They got one thing in mind: they want to move freight. If you can't do it, I'll go find another driver who can. Yep. And all those things. So I said, this is not going to be easy. We're going to have to work really, really hard at doing this. But she was relentless and wouldn't let it go away. And so we finally were able to come and we got launched. And so it's been 2 years plus now. So we're finally making some inroads. Think that people like yourself being able to help get the word out there and that drivers know.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back, this isn't for everyone. Even our services aren't for everyone. And we're trying to be a lifestyle improvement process, right? So we want to talk to those drivers who want better for themselves or are proud of the profession. Because it's all about, I don't see this industry going anywhere. And drivers are essential to the country. So why are we not focusing our efforts to take care of those drivers? And that's the simple principle behind everything we do. And I see that it comes through very evidently through CDL MEALS as well. So
yeah, and I think you always try to find a silver lining, as they say, in the pandemic, where it was horrific and took a lot of lives. But one thing I took away from it, as far as what you and I do, a lot of people realize how important drivers are, right?
Yep, absolutely.
They just don't now go open up the door and say, where's the milk at? They realize what has to be done to get it.
It has to travel. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's something, I guess that kind of leads into this next one. What's something you feel special about CDL MEALS as a company and that separates you from the others in the food market and the Freshly's and the other companies out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, it's designed for drivers, CDL. I mean, when her and I first sat down and started talking about it, she goes, what do you think about a name? I said, CDL MEALS, to me, I mean, that says it all, right? That's a niche. That's where we need to be. Bus or truck drivers, they're the ones that need to be identified. And I learned this years and years ago, working in this space. I came out with some vitamins and worked with a company, and we branded them for the drivers. And so one of the first calls I got, the driver asked me if it was such and such a brand, just had a different label on it. I said, no, these are actually designed, manufactured for drivers, so they know. And that's the difference, right? You have to be able to cater to the driver, portion control, all that, but then also getting this little manual that gives them tips and information and engagement. And it's recognizing drivers for who they are and their special population
and the uniqueness of their profession, and there's no other profession like it. I mean, that's and that's what I love about the name of the company, CDL MEALS. It's, you don't have to question who it's for.
Right. And same with your organization. I mean, one of the things that I learned about early on as a boy riding with my dad in the truck, when he needed tires, he got on the radio, right? And said, hey, where do I get these tires at? Where you go here, you go there. Don't go to this guy, go to this guy, and I listened to that. And when I got in business, I kept thinking, gosh, if I could come with a product, service, whatever, and I delivered more than I said I would to the drivers, they're going to tell their buddies.
Yep,
right? Exactly. And people don't realize that truck drivers started social media.
They're the original.
Right?
They're the original.
Yeah, they started. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, well, winding on down here, what exciting things can we expect to see from the future with CDL Mills? Any projects you guys are working on? You did
Yeah,
mention.
we're hoping that we're getting ready. We want to test having vending machines at the terminals.
Yeah,
So when the drivers come through, if they don't have a cafe there or they're waiting to get their truck worked on, if we can have, so we actually have a CDL vending machine designed already. We're trying to find placement for it in California, close to our offices, so we can test it and deliver the meals. So we're working on that. And then really just working on trying to, in talks now with the large travel centers to test our meals, to do a pilot, to try it. And so we're hoping to get a breakthrough there. And as soon as we do, you'll be the first I tell, my friend, and we can get back on and tell everybody. Because we can get fortunate enough and get blessed to be able to deliver that, they got to support it if they want it. So it won't last if they don't support it.
absolutely. I think I love hearing that you guys are trying to get in, the vending machines with the terminals. My father has a company with FedEx Ground, and
Oh,
every driver we have goes into those terminals. And wow, what a huge difference that would be. Even me going with my dad sometimes, just knowing that there's a healthy meal waiting for you at your destination instead of stopping on the way, and having the assurance of a clean meal where you want it. I think
that's
that's. I wish you all the luck on that. I really hope you move forward with that.
pushing hard. We're pushing hard. So, if you keep knocking at the door, right, eventually somebody open up. You just got to keep at it.
That's right. Um, well, I just got a couple questions for you left. You out of my friend, my partner and I, we tried the meals earlier last week. I think he had the plant-based chicken and rice, and I had the fish, and both of them were amazing. Do you have a favorite meal?
Yeah, the fish, the salmon. The salmon is my favorite. It was really good. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was my favorite for sure.
Yeah.
um, and the last one, if you were a truck driver, what would your CB handle be? Or you may have already had one.
Oh wow, that's funny. That's a good question. Interesting. It would probably be the trucker trainer, which that's my handle I go by now. Talking to drivers. So I'm always interested in spreading the gospel about working out and taking care of yourself wherever. So it would be the trucker trainer.
That makes sense. That's awesome. Well, Bob, I appreciate you spending some time with me today. For those of you watching, be sure to check out CDL Mills at cdlmills.com. Awesome company, awesome mission, extremely good meals. I'm excited to see what you guys have coming up in the future.
All right, man. You rock. You're very kind. Thanks.